and welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Kate Boyd and I'm a pianist and professor at Butler University in Indianapolis. Now this month I am practicing my way through the sonatas that Beethoven wrote for piano and violin, or violin and piano if that's what you prefer to call them. I've been releasing a video every day this month where I have been practicing and focusing on some takeaways for the viewer. Today, instead of practicing, I'm giving you a break from that. We're going to talk to Justine Cormack, who is the violinist I'm doing this project with. What we have today is an interview that I did with her, and we talk about her background, we talk about the project, the idea for the project, some of our thoughts on chamber music and playing together, and you get a little bit of a feel for what she's like and how we relate to each other. So I really hope you enjoyed this interview. Happy practicing. I'm glad to have you on the Zoom, and I can't wait to see you in person very soon. I'm doing this project and I'm releasing videos in December about me practicing the piano part to the Beethoven violin sonatas. And there's a big component missing, and that is the violin. And so it's with great anticipation that I've been practicing this whole month and looking forward to your visit. And I thought it would be interesting. And I've gotten a few comments on the videos, like, people wanting to know more about the project and hear from you and get to know you a little bit. So I thought I would break up the monotony of people watching me practice every day and have a special episode where we actually get to talk to you and get to know you a little bit. So that's kind of the psychology behind this.
Yeah, okay, great, thanks. So I'm from New Zealand. I was born in Christchurch, which is one of the biggest cities in New Zealand. And played the violin since I was 4. Evidently it was my idea, I can't really remember, but my parents went away and I stayed with an older couple and they had a violin, and I would go and open the case, and I was fascinated by this thing. I had 2 older sisters who were playing a little bit of music, so I wanted to get involved. And ever since then, it's just been a part of my life. It's never been like the sort of all-encompassing part, but a very important part. And all the way through my schooling, I had great schools in Christchurch that had lots of music, and also outside of school had lots of opportunities to play in orchestras, and then at high school at chamber music groups. And we have a fantastic national competition that is still going. I think it's been decades long so far, a chamber music contest where kids from all over the country enter. And that was really the start of my true love of chamber music. So after school, during my high school years, I'd be practicing with other musicians and then performing in this competition. And actually one of the years that I won it here in New Zealand was with a pianist who has since become a pianist that I have played with through all of my life, and more recently within New Zealand Trio, the NZ Trio, which I was involved with for 15 years. Most recently, that's the full-time playing that I did, but I left that trio 5 years ago now. But so for 15 years, I was very much focused on chamber music, piano trio repertoire, plus other bits and pieces. Before that, I've been concertmaster of the Auckland Philharmonia, which is the second biggest orchestra in New Zealand. And then before that, I was in the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra. And during that time, you and I actually had chance meeting at Banff Centre for a winter residency. And that's where we reconnected, which was just by chance that we were there at the same time. And that's probably why we're doing this project, actually, because that was where we reconnected, having met initially at Stony Brook University back in the early 90s.
That's right.
Seems like a distant dark memory. So that was kind of a backwards view of my life, starting from little and then more recently. But I've done a master's at San Francisco Conservatory and a doctorate at Stony Brook University. But I've really committed to being in New Zealand for my career. So that's about it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you touched on something I wanted to ask about, which was how we got to know each other. I remember being in Banff with you. And for those who aren't familiar with it, there's a place in Banff called the Banff Center. And it was in the 90s that we were there together, right?
It's 99.
Yeah. And the way that it was set up was that artists of all disciplines could come and spend 3 months together in a kind of a communal setting, and everybody would have focused time to work and practice and write or compose or make films, whatever they were there for. And we all like got to know each other as a little community. And so it was very fertile ground for collaborations, both within music, but then also between music and other disciplines. And so we played together in band. We played Janacek Sonata. Do you remember?
We did, because the reason I was there was to prepare for a CD recording that I was doing with Sarah, the pianist that I mentioned before. And Janacek Sonata was one of those pieces. So it was great to be able to play that with you while I was there.
And so I want to move on to the question that a lot of people are asking me, which is, why are we doing this project? Why all the Beethoven sonatas, and why now, and all of those questions?
Yeah, well, it is a good question, because actually the why now is really, it was supposed to be 3 years ago, of course, almost 3 years ago, because in 2020 was Beethoven's 250th anniversary of his birth. And so you contacted me because you had a sabbatical that you wanted to do a big project. And yeah, we talked about lots of different things, but we came up with that idea to do the cycle because it was such a significant year for Beethoven. And what a wonderful project, 10 incredible sonatas. But certainly I'd probably only played half of them, maybe. But
I'd played 2.
Oh, okay.
2. Yeah.
Yeah. So in February of 2020, you came to New Zealand and we worked on them all over the course of a couple of weeks. It was pretty intense. It was really great. And we performed them all in the space of 3 days.
It was very stressful and very intense.
It was, but it was amazing. And to do it here in the middle of summer, beautiful mountainous place where I live, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So, but the plan was later that year to do what we're doing now at Butler, but of course COVID hit, and it's taken us almost 3 years to get to this point of being able to do it.
Yeah.
So we still have to pretend it's the 250th anniversary.
That's right. We're going to have to pretend it's not his 53rd anniversary of his birth. Yeah. I remember contacting you. I remember trying to think of a significant sabbatical project, and I wanted to do something collaborative. And I wanted to do some kind of chamber music experience. And one of the reasons that I decided to ask you individually as opposed to put together a big group is because the logistics of handling a big group of people. And I also wanted to be an opportunity to spend time in a place that I wouldn't normally get to spend time with, and be with a person or people that I wouldn't normally get to be with. So I didn't want to just do something locally during my sabbatical. And we had played together, but also you had those 15 years playing in the piano trio, the New Zealand piano trio. And you were just at the point where you were pulling away from that, and so it seemed like, I remember reaching out and being like, do you want to do something? And then we started brainstorming and we settled on the Beethoven. So it was kind of a whole series of happy circumstances that allowed us both to be available and interested and eager to play together. And I have to say, Justine, that playing with you feels very, very natural, and I've really enjoyed it. And I've certainly had experiences playing with people where it hasn't felt as natural. And I think that's made the whole experience a lot easier. And I'm really looking forward to having you come back. So I wanted to ask you about why the Beethoven sonatas. What do you like about these pieces? And what is the exciting aspect for you about playing all 10 of these?
Interesting. Well, I mean, Beethoven's just such a phenomenally important composer in the whole classical canon. And to have 10 sonatas also, I mean, that's kind of, you've got some composers like Mozart and Haydn, there's a lot of repertoire, but most composers, there's not that sort of size. So to have the size of the project is kind of appealing, because it really extends us to have to be able to take in that all 10 sonatas and be able to perform them all at the same time. That appeals to me as a challenge. And then the idea of experiencing the journey of a composer as well. What some of the most memorable times that I've had in my orchestral settings have been to playing complete cycles of a composer's symphonies. And actually, especially when you do them in a chronological order, which we are going to do this time, you really experience personally as a player the journey or the evolution of that composer. And I think that's really fascinating. You learn a lot in the process without having to be very conscious about it, that just you experience the composer in a much deeper way. And what better composer than Beethoven to do that, really, because he was just phenomenal.
That's really well said. Yeah. And it is a challenge. It's just the right size of challenge too, because to play all 10 of these pieces is a 3-concert event. And it feels like, we're not in a situation where we're trying to coordinate 10 recitals. Like if you play all the Brahms chamber music, that like takes a whole season and you have to really space that out. And if you did like all the Brahms violin sonatas, that's just one concert, right? So to find that balance. Can you talk a little bit about the idea of these sonatas being chamber music as opposed to a violin solo with piano accompaniment, and your thoughts on that as violinists?
Yeah, well, absolutely. So first of all, they're actually called Beethoven piano and violin sonatas, I think. And so, they're very much an equal partnership, as pretty much most of the chamber music that I like to play is always very equal in terms of that sort of thing. So, I mean, previously there were a lot of sonatas that were more piano dominant with a little sort of violin obbligato before Beethoven's time. But it's very much a collaborative partnership and conversation between the two instruments. I mean, that's how I see it. I presume that you see it that way too.
Yeah.
And that's why it'll be so great to finally get together again and have that interplay, because in the process of preparing them, you just have to imagine all of that is going on. But just a few weeks ago, I had the chance to play 2 of the sonatas in Auckland, again with Sarah. And it was just so nice to again have the piano part with me rather than just in my imagination. It's just so much more fun. Yeah. Obviously, it's so important to have all of those things interacting.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm like practicing, and then I have like a theme, and then I have like when I have to imagine you having the theme, and then I get the theme again, and then I imagine you going and so like to have that things being passed back and forth like that is really going to be nice. It's like each of us has half of a locket, those lockets, and we each have like the broken heart half, and we'll get together and we'll put them together, and it'll be like complete. It'll be amazing. So you're about to travel from New Zealand to the United States, and you're going to come to Indianapolis. And I don't think you've ever visited Indianapolis. And it's summer there and it's winter here. And so can you share a little bit of something, if anything, you're looking forward to about visiting Indianapolis and Butler University?
I haven't thought about it beyond being there and playing Beethoven with you and spending more time with you and your husband and your dog, So I think I would say the thing that I'm most looking forward to beyond the specific Beethoven project is being able to land into your life and experience, a completely different scene and setting and your life at the university and so on, in the same way that you did that 3 years ago when you dropped into my life and fully experienced what's going on here. So yeah,
and I think that a lot of people aren't aware of the way that this isn't a situation where I went to New Zealand and I stayed in a hotel and then we got together sometimes and rehearsed. It was like I moved into your home for, I think, 3.5 weeks. Yeah. And I was living there. We were eating together. We were shopping together. We were rehearsing together. We were talking, going for walks. And I got to meet your friends. And now we're reversing roles. You're coming to Indianapolis. You're going to stay in our Airbnb because we aren't in our home. But anyway, you stay with us. You'll meet our friends. We'll cook together, eat together, walk together, rehearse together. So, and that is, it's like a relationship that then comes into the music making. The fact that we get to know each other. And I mean, you must have had that also with your trio, being with them for 15 years.
Absolutely. But that is also where it's extremely critical who you partner up with for projects like this, or any sort of chamber music, that the intensity with which you work together. It's really important that you have enough in common, or can really understand the other person, or have a similar sort of approach, I guess, without, it's not about having to be the same at all, quite the opposite. But those interpersonal elements are just so important, and they infuse the process of playing together too. So I mean, it's going to be incredibly intense and wonderful, and middle of winter, which is just so bizarre, because we're just 2 days away from the longest day here.
That's right.
It's light in the morning at 5:30 a.m. and dark by 10 p.m. where it's going to go to half of that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's true. You're going to really experience winter without the gradual transition of the seasons.
Yeah,
sure.
It'll be a shock.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your festival, your new festival that you just started, I think, the year before last?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a festival called At the World's Edge Festival, or for short, so AWE. And I've set this up with a New Zealand violinist who's based in London, called Benjamin Baker. He has a fantastic international solo career. And he and I have set up this festival, which will happen every October. We had our second festival just a few months ago. And the idea is that we bring the best of international chamber musicians to play with the best of New Zealand chamber musicians. We get together for 2 weeks. We play 6 different programs. This year we had 10 performances because we had doubles, and there are community events and so on. But really it's about that high level chamber music, putting people together, and, all the wonderful things that happen from that. And so far it's going really well. We've got great aspirations for it to become world renowned, that people will travel from all over the world to experience it here, because we are in Queenstown, Wanaka, Cromwell, this absolutely gorgeous mountainous lakes, beautifully, it's just a stunning area. That's sort of the jewel of New Zealand in a way, in terms of tourism and so on. So to have an international chamber music festival here is really exciting, to be building that.
Yeah, and you started it. I'm going to put a link to it in the description below this video so people can find it. worldedgefestival.com. Great. So before we go, we've been talking about music this whole time. Tell us something non-musical about your life or your interests. Like, what do you do when you're not playing music?
Oh, well, interesting. I would say a big part of my life now is in response to where I'm living, because 5.5 years ago, I left the NZ Trio. I was based in Auckland, in the middle of a huge city. Now I live down in the countryside. So I'm looking out the window by mountains. You know the space because you've been here. And so the idea of getting out and interacting with nature, walking along this gorgeous river that's close by, climbing the mountains. One of my favorite things to do, which I don't do enough of, is actually going into the mountains for a few days, pack on my back, and staying in huts. And I just love that connection with nature, and that's really important. And I feel that really is part of how I like to approach music too, to sort of really respond to things naturally. Mm-hmm. And so just getting outdoors into the beautiful wilderness is really important to me.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to seeing you shortly. I really appreciate your time today. I know you're busy packing, and thank you. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you soon.